The financial argument for staying in a career you have outgrown is not the main reason people don't leave. It is the main reason people don't calculate. And there is a significant difference between those two things. Most people in this position have done some version of the math. They have looked at their salary, their mortgage, their obligations, and concluded reasonably that the numbers don't work. What they have not done is run the complete equation, because the equation most people run is missing half its variables. This video is about the half that is missing. Not to make the fear disappear. The fear is based on something real, but to make the financial picture complete enough to actually work with. Because you are not afraid of the wrong thing. You are afraid of an incomplete version of the right thing. Here is what the standard calculation looks like. Current salary. Monthly expenses. Savings buffer. Subtract one from the other, divide by the third, arrive at a number of months before the situation becomes critical. Run that number, feel the fear sharpen, close the spreadsheet. That calculation is not wrong. It is just solving the wrong problem. It is calculating the cost of leaving. It is not calculating the cost of staying. And until both sides of that ledger are visible, the decision is always going to look more dangerous than it is. The cost of staying has several components that do not show up on any financial statement. The first is the most obvious and the most ignored. Suppressed earning potential. Research on career dissatisfaction consistently shows that people in significant misalignment underperform on the dimensions that drive salary growth. They take fewer risks, advocate less for themselves, and plateau earlier than their capability would predict. The financial cost of that plateau, compounded over 5 to 10 years, is not a small number. It just does not appear anywhere in the calculation because it is a thing that did not happen, not a thing that did. The second component is the performance tax. The daily energy expenditure of maintaining a professional identity that no longer fits, of presenting a version of yourself you have outgrown, of doing competent work you do not believe in, has a real productivity cost. Not a metaphorical one, a measurable one. Studies on chronic low-grade occupational disengagement show consistent output drag that compounds over time. You are already paying this cost. It is just invisible because it is chronic, not acute. So here is the real shape of the decision. On one side, a visible and calculable financial risk. On the other side, an invisible but real financial cost that has been accumulating for years without appearing on any statement. The calculation most people run is measuring one side of a two-sided equation. That is not a character failure. That is an information problem. And information problems have solutions. With that fuller picture in mind, it is worth spending a moment on why the standard prescriptions don't work. Not because the people giving them are wrong, but because they are solving a different version of the problem. The most common piece of financial advice for career changers is some version of, save 6 months of expenses before you move. This is not bad advice. It is incomplete advice. Because it addresses the runway question, how long can you survive without income? Without addressing the income bridge question, what happens to your income during the transition itself? A career transition is almost never a cliff. It is almost always a bridge. And a bridge has a different financial architecture than a cliff. Planning for a cliff when you are actually on a bridge means you are over-preparing for the worst case and under-preparing for the most likely case. The second common prescription is, start a side income first, build freelance work or consulting, or a small business while still employed, and only leave when the income replaces your salary. For some people in some situations this is genuinely correct. For most people in significant career misalignment, it is not. Because it applies a growth strategy to a problem that is not primarily a growth problem, it is a transition problem. Those are different. They require different architectures. The third prescription, negotiate a package, take a severance, fails not because it is wrong in principle, but because it assumes a timeline that most career changers do not have. You cannot plan a career transition around a severance package that may or may not come, on a timeline you do not control. The version of the plan that depends on external timing is a version of the plan that keeps you waiting for permission that is not coming. Here is what these prescriptions have in common. They are all solving for a single moment, the exit, rather than for the full architecture of a transition. A transition is not a moment. It is a structured process with identifiable stages, and each stage has a different financial profile. Once you can see those stages clearly, the financial picture changes shape. So here is what a real financial transition framework actually contains. Not the simplified version, the honest one. It has 3 structural elements, not steps in a sequence. Elements of a bridge. They work together, not in order. The first element is calculated runway, not 6 months of expenses as a generic target. Your actual monthly obligations mapped precisely with your actual liquid assets, mapped precisely, producing a real number in months that reflects your real situation. Most people have never done this calculation with full honesty. They have estimated it, they have feared it, they have not actually done it. The difference between an estimated number and a calculated number is the difference between a threat and a problem. Problems can be worked with. The second element is the income bridge. This is the component most financial planning for career change ignores. A career transition does not require a period of zero income. It requires a period of reduced or uncertain income, which is a meaningfully different problem. The income bridge is the specific, realistic answer to the question, what income is available to me during the transition itself, before the destination income begins? For most people, this is not zero. It is often consulting income from prior expertise. It is often part-time or contract work in an adjacent area. It is often income from a partner or a planned drawdown or a combination of several smaller sources. The income bridge is not a side hustle. It is a structured interim financial position that is identified and partially built before the exit. The third element is decision gates. This is the element that makes everything else usable. A decision gate is a specific, pre-agreed financial condition that tells you when to move, not whether to move. You have already decided whether to move. The gate answers the timing question with a concrete trigger, rather than an emotional one. When my runway calculation reaches X months and my income bridge covers Y% of my obligations, I take the next step. The gate removes the decision from the realm of feeling and places it in the realm of measurement. And measurement, unlike feeling, is something you can prepare for. Here is the reframe that holds all of this together. The goal is not to make the financial risk disappear. The financial risk of a career transition is real, and any framework that implies otherwise is not a framework. It is a sales pitch. The goal is to make the financial risk calculable. Because unexamined risk and calculated risk are not the same experience. They are not even close to the same experience. Unexamined risk is a fog. You cannot navigate fog. Calculated risk is a map with difficult terrain marked clearly. You can navigate terrain. You can plan for terrain. You can make real decisions about terrain. That is the entire distance between financially paralyzed and financially equipped. Not the elimination of the hard thing, the honest mapping of it. If this framework is the thing that has been missing, there is a resource in the description built specifically for the next step. It is called the Financial Bridge Guide, a step-by-step tool for running the actual calculation, your real runway number, your income bridge options, and the specific decision gates that make the timing real, not a generic template, a working tool for your actual numbers. The link is in the description and in the pinned comment below. It is worth making this concrete, not as a success story, as a process story. Consider someone at year 11 of a career in financial compliance. Good salary, real obligations, mortgage, 2 children, a partner whose income covers roughly 40% of the household. The clarity about wanting to leave had arrived about 2 years earlier. The financial calculation had been run many times. The number always felt unsurvivable. What had not been done was the 3-element calculation. When the runway calculation was run honestly, not estimated, calculated, with every real obligation mapped, the actual number was 14 months. Not 6, not infinite, 14, a specific, workable number. The income bridge calculation revealed 2 things that had not been visible before. Prior expertise in compliance consulting that represented a realistic source of interim income, and a timeline, not immediate but real, within which that income could be partially established before the exit. The decision gate that emerged from the calculation was specific, runway of 12 months minimum, income bridge covering 50% of obligations, and 1 confirmed consulting engagement before notice. Not a feeling, not a courage threshold, a measurement. 11 months after running that calculation, the conditions were met. Not perfectly. The income bridge was at 40%, not 50%. The runway was 13 months, not 12. The decision gate was adjusted, not abandoned, based on real data. And the exit happened. The story does not end there, because this is not a success story. There were months where the income bridge underperformed. There was a period where the runway calculation became urgent and required real adjustments to the household plan. These were hard months. But they were hard months with a map. The difference between hard with a map and hard in a fog is not a small difference. It is the difference between a problem being navigated and a fear being survived. The reason this example matters is not that the numbers will look like your numbers. They will not. Everyone's calculation is specific. The reason it matters is that the structure held. Runway, income bridge, decision gates. Those three elements translated a fog into a map. For someone with real obligations and a real timeline, they will do the same for anyone willing to run the numbers honestly. Your situation is specific. The framework is general. Those two things are not in conflict. A map does not have to be your exact terrain to be useful. It has to show you the terrain accurately. That is what this framework does. If this is the calculation you have been putting off, the financial bridge guide in the description is where to take it next. It walks through each element, runway, income bridge, decision gates, with the specific tools to apply it to your actual numbers. Link in the description and in the pinned comment. What has been the specific number or obligation that has made the financial calculation feel unsurvivable? And have you actually run the full calculation or estimated it? Here is what this video has actually been about. Not career change finance in the abstract, but the specific thing underneath the financial fear. The fact that most people in this position are afraid of a calculation they have never actually completed. The equation that has been running in the background. The one that always produces the same answer. The one that closes every conversation about change before it can become a real conversation. That equation is missing half its variables. The cost of leaving is real. It belongs in the equation. The cost of staying, the suppressed potential, the performance tax, the years of opportunity cost is equally real. It also belongs in the equation. And the structure of the transition itself, runway, income bridge, decision gates, belongs in the equation too. When the equation is complete, the answer is not safe. It is not easy. It is not go now. It is something more useful than any of those things. It is specific. And specific is something you can work with. Before this week ends, there is one thing worth doing. Not a plan, not a decision. One calculation. Take your actual monthly obligations. Not estimated, actual. Take your actual liquid assets. Not approximate, actual. Divide one by the other. Write down the number. That number, whatever it is the beginning of the real picture. Not the whole picture, the beginning. And the beginning is the only place the first honest step ever starts. Not a leap, not a plan. One number, written down, for the first time, honestly. That is the molecule that moves. And if that is all that happens from this video, it was enough.